Here we are. We made it. 2.5 days, our first 2.5-day summit. So glad to be wrapping up with you all. Thank you for sticking around. I don't think that you're going to regret it. We're going to close today and close the summit with our second annual Prevention Excellence Awards. And I'm really, really excited to recognize 5 incredible institutions and have them share a little bit of their perspectives with all of you. But before I do, I want to just contextualize these awards. As I mentioned earlier in the opening remarks, our sexual assault diagnostic inventory and alcohol diagnostic inventory are comprehensive research-based frameworks that were built on all of the same evidence-based insights that went into that pyramid model of institutionalization, critical processes, policy, and programming. I hope by now that is just ingrained. We're going to have dreams about that framework as it's guiding our work and maximizing our impact. But we really wanted to go beyond just having a framework to ultimately have a tool to be able to assess our work, but not just assess ourselves against best practice, but see where we land compared to other institutions across the country that are similarly assessing themselves. And so I want to share with you now the distribution of what we've learned when we look at the prevention work of colleges and universities across the country, with over 200 institutions that have participated in our diagnostic inventories. One thing I'll note before diving in specifically is policy is missing here. As Holly talked about, we're actually going to be building in a policy module to our sexual assault diagnostic inventory coming in 2019. The alcohol diagnostic inventory already has that policy module integrated, but since it's not there on the sexual assault side, we scrubbed it from this deck. But here you can see the distribution of how colleges and universities in the country are performing. And from left to right in this distribution, the purple bar are schools that are emerging in their work, either just beginning their efforts or at the early stages of developing really strong prevention efforts in these categories. The orange bar is schools that are developing. They've begun to generate some momentum in growing, expanding, and improving their work. The 2 bars on the right side of the distributions, the blue bar is proficient institutions, schools that are doing a really solid job in each of these core areas. And then the green bar are schools that are designated as advanced. And these are not just subjective designations. These are based on the quantitative scores that schools are getting when we look at their responses to these research-based items about their comprehensive prevention efforts. So it's a truly rigorous and meaningful evaluation of schools' prevention work. So you can see on the sexual assault side, on the left side of the screen, the distribution looks like a pretty normal curve where you've got some schools at the early phase of their work and some schools much more developed and doing really advanced work in each of these areas, but the vast majority falling somewhere in the middle. Around alcohol prevention efforts, you see a similar distribution with regards to programming, but we do see a pretty stronger skew towards emerging and developing in the areas of institutionalization and critical processes. When we bring these things together and aggregate these scores, here's how schools are doing in full in their sexual assault prevention work and their alcohol prevention work. And I want to point out specifically the small percentage of schools that fall into that advanced category. This is the criteria for inclusion and consideration for the Prevention Excellence Awards. So you can see these are in the top 10% of schools in the country that are assessing themselves through the diagnostic inventories. And we go a step further once a school reaches that threshold. Before we bring them on stage and recognize their work, we get on the phone with them, we interview them, we make sure that we validate their responses and ensure that they've done the things that they've said they've done. And it's also an opportunity for us to learn about best practices happening at colleges and universities across the country. So this is the criteria that the schools that we're going to recognize this morning have met and exceeded in their incredible work. And so I want to begin today with recognizing our schools who have achieved excellence in alcohol prevention efforts. And at this time, I want to bring EVERFI's President of Higher Education, Craig Chanoff, to the stage, as well as EVERFI's Senior Director of Prevention Education, Kimberly Timpf, to recognize our award winners. I'll begin today with the University of Dayton. The most important aspect of the University of Dayton's prevention work is their strategic framework for alcohol abuse. This framework calls for a three-pronged approach, ensuring all efforts are coordinated, focused, and sustained. This approach informs their prevention education programs, intervention and recovery services, policies, and response strategies. Please join me in celebrating the work of the University of Dayton. All right, thank you. And we'll be bringing these schools back onto stage in just a few moments, and they're going to share about 5 minutes of perspective, just talking about the things that really stood out as most important to them. But then we're going to have them actually field questions from us and from all of you about their work. Moving forward, the University of Delaware. The strength of their approach lies in a number of key components or factors. Their campus coalition for alcohol and other drug prevention and other partnerships engage key leadership and expands access and understanding of issues and impact across the university and community with programming that speaks to students in ways that impact true behavior change. Please join me in celebrating the University of Delaware. Great. All right, thank you. Congratulations. The next institution is the University of Michigan. Prevention work requires institution and community-wide collaboration. A holistic framework guides our comprehensive public health approach to reduce harm and promote well-being. A critical component of their prevention work at the University of Michigan is to include students in every step of the planning process. Please join me in celebrating the University of Michigan. Thank you. All right, I'd now like to bring to the stage the Senior Director of Prevention Education, who oversees our sexual and relationship violence work, Holly Ryder-Milkovich, to recognize those institutions who have achieved excellence in sexual assault prevention efforts. The first institution I would like to bring to the stage is Transylvania University. TU's Title IX policies exist as part of a broader commitment to provide equal opportunities for all members of the institution. TU employees are committed to providing an atmosphere that is nurturing, accepting, and safe. Transylvania University's success is a result of the commitment to those ideas across all departments of the institution. Join me in celebrating Transylvania University. Congratulations. The next institution I want to recognize is the University of Richmond. The success of the University of Richmond is due in large part to students' safety and well-being being embraced throughout their institution among senior leadership, deans, departments across campus, and especially their students. Their programming is designed to engage with students throughout their academic career and across the socio-ecological model through a combination of mandatory, active, pop-up, and passive programming. Please join me in celebrating the University of Richmond. Congratulations. And our last Sexual Assault Prevention Excellence Award winner is our first school to achieve excellence in both their alcohol and sexual assault prevention work. Please join me in welcoming back to the stage the University of Michigan. Congratulations. All right, I'm going to ask that Craig, Holly, and Kimberly remain on the stage, and I'm going to bring all of our Prevention Excellence Award winners back up with their trophies to join us for the panel discussion and one final group picture. So join me again in celebrating the 2018 Prevention Excellence Award winners. Great, thank you all so much.